in now. Let me in. Oh boy. Today we are talking about the latest film from Osgood Perkins, The Monkey. It is based on the short story by Stephen King, and it tells the story of twin brothers Hal and Bill who discover their father's old monkey toy in the attic. Upon doing so, a series of gruesome deaths start occurring all around them. This movie was so absurd, I am still thinking about it. I had to make a longer video about it. Like, a tiny little TikTok is not doing it justice. I kind of just wanted to ramble and yap about it some more. I am a Longlegs truther. I don't care what anyone says. I loved Longlegs. Longlegs was effective for me. It really worked for me. After I saw it, I was very interested to see what Osgood Perkins had cooking up his sleeve next. I think he did such a great job at crafting a distinct tone, distinct visual flair. I saw the vision, I really loved the vision, and so I was on board for what was coming next. Nothing could have prepared me for The Monkey, though. I think if you're going in kind of expecting a similar vibe to Longlegs, stop right there. Stop right there. Do yourself a favor and just wipe that slate. Osgood Perkins did a Q&A after my screening, and he said something to the effect of, he doesn't go in and try and make a story like his thing. He just kind of serves the story. He is there to complete the assignment and give us what the assignment calls for rather than infuse like his flair on it. Because let me tell you, this movie is cuckoo bananas crazy. It is so absolutely ridiculous and over the top. It still has that mean-spirited nature that Longlegs had, but this is funny. I don't think people are prepared for how funny this movie is. If people weren't dropping like flies every 10 minutes, it could just be a really weird comedy. I think what was most impressive to me was this tightrope of a tone and how well Perkins manages to merge this really wicked sense of humor with these over-the-top kills. I will say, tonally though, it does fall apart a little bit in the third act. The humor and the style really kind of runs its course and kind of hits a wall by the time we get to the end. And then the emotional resonance doesn't come through because we've been so focused on crafting this like absurd, wild comedy. The heart of it suffers a little bit. But overall, for like the first 2/3, I think it really works. One thing that really did impress me tonally as well was the way Osgood Perkins managed to make this friggin' monkey so menacing, the way it carries so much power and presence by just like sitting there. I thought that was quite impressive on his part. As I mentioned, the kills are insane. They're gruesome. This is so bloody, so gory, so ridiculous. He mentioned in the Q&A that everything was done practically and it looks great. I think some of these deaths are so like shocking. I'd be interested to see how they hold up on a rewatch. I think part of what makes them so exhilarating and so effective is the editing of it all. Graham Fortin, the editor, the way he uses the edit to punch up the comedy is just mwah. There's so many moments of like irony that are just like hitting you over the head with a quick cut. I'm not gonna say anything, but like some of it is just like so ridiculous. It just like hits you like a ton of bricks in the best way. Theo James really impressed me. He takes on a dual role here of Hal and Bill, and I think he does a great job at crafting distinct identities for them while also matching the energies of the actor who plays the young version of him. There's two of them, they're twins. Anyway, Christian Convery plays young Hal and young Bill, and I think Christian does a great job too at giving us a lot to work with, really distinct identities without overkilling or like falling into like a blanket two-dimensional trope. Both of them feel very real and lived in, and Theo James does a great job at latching on to what Christian establishes and deepening them and pulling more out. I only wish we got maybe a little more time with Bill, and like I said, some of it is so silly. By the time we get to like the emotional crux of it, I didn't feel it. There's a lot of tension and history between these two, and it kind of gets a little pushed to the bottom. Theo James is great in it. He's very committed. I really liked him in White Lotus. I think that really showed us what kind of actor he really can be, and this furthers that. I think He really goes for it. I'd love to see him in more of these things, just going for it, just letting loose and going crazy. Tatiana Maslany's really fun in this. I think she understands the tone perfectly. And Colin O'Brien, who plays Hal's son Petey, is awesome in this. I really loved what he was doing. Petey's kind of like our vessel through like the second half of the film as this chaos erupts around us. Like we are both like the unobjective outsider diving into this, but he still really manages to nail the comedic beats with this like dry wit that I was like really impressed he pulled off. I also think like he specifically doesn't sacrifice like his character's emotional integrity for just comedy. I think that relationship and that character's like yearning for a present father is very palpable, very real, and very like beautiful. He does a great job at grounding the movie. I definitely don't think this movie's gonna work for everyone, even more so than Longlegs. I really think the tone of it all is gonna divide people. I definitely do echo the critique and agree with the fact that this movie is like really cynical first and foremost and doesn't really bring like an emotional resonance to the table, and maybe that's intentional, right? Maybe it wants to lean into the idea of like life is meaningless and then we die, and by giving us not a lot to latch onto. But I do think the shtick runs its course before we can wrap a bow on it. Overall, though, I had a good time. I again would be interested to see how it holds up on a rewatch, whether or not like it is like effective or a lot of this is just shock value. But I'm not mad about it. I don't love it as much as some other people do, and I don't hate it like I'm seeing some people on Letterboxd are. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. I think Osgood Perkins is really carving a lane for himself. I think he really has a great understanding of horror and knows how to play in it. I think he treats horror as a nice sandbox and brings a lot of different vibes and style to it while also like maintaining his own flair without overpowering the story at its core. 3.5 out of 5, yeah. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching. As always, make sure you do all the things you're supposed to do with a YouTube video, like, comment, subscribe, and follow me everywhere at the bottom of the screen. And I will see you on the next one. Bye!